Oh, good God. Oh, hello. Hi. Is my hair a mess? Yes, it is. Did I do something about it? Yes, I did. I put this shit on, and now we're here talking about part of my vampire book collection. Hi, my name's Mona. I really like books, and I thought I should do a fun video, fun for me mostly, about some of my books that have vampires in them. Yes, this is just some of them. So, note to self, these are not all of my books that have vampires in them. If I would have brought all of them, this video would be way longer than it already will be. So yeah, um, I had to establish some ground rules when I put this list into a video. So the books have to have the vampire either as the main protagonist, villain, theme, or love interest, because we're romantic that way. I also put the books into categories so that it's easier for me to reach for them and to know what the hell I'm talking about, and to make it a bit more, how should I say, seemed organized a bit. We have here standalones in this pile under the empty cup, spoilers. We have here, and here series, yeah, that many. And over here, at the end, we will have Dracula and Dracula adjacent books. It will make sense when we get there. So I shall move the empty cup now. Thank you. And we shall start with our first book, which is a non-fiction. By the way, I'm Romanian, so we'll have books both in Romanian and English, because those are the only two languages I speak, just FYI. The first one, non-fiction, it's Vampires and Vampirism, Autopsy of a Myth by Claude Leconteau, and this is a very short and comprehensive study on the myth and folklore of vampires in Europe mostly. Like during the Austro-Hungarian period, where they even had investigations and trials against potential vampires in mostly Europe. That's pretty much the gist. It's not written in a complicated way. This one came out, I think, in 1999, so it's not an old study. It has like the most recent cases that we have documented about vampirism. So if you want something short and sweet, in English, I think you can find the book under the title The Secret History of Vampires. Why is it called The Secret History? I do not know. Next, this is the only non-fiction I have, by the way. Next, we have the first fiction book, and I need to censor this lovely lady. This is the La Mort Amoresse, or The Dead Woman in Love, by Théophile Gautier. And this is basically a very short story about an old priest that recounts how he fell in love with a vampire and was in a relationship with her for about 3 years until he was saved and brought back to priesthood. That's it. Nothing complicated, nothing. The only life lesson is that, oh, vampires are sinful. That's it. It's part of the crew of short story vampires that came before Dracula. So it's part of the same group like Sheridan Le Fanu, Alexei Tolstoy, Polidori. So it's very short. So if you ever get the chance to read it, just to see where it started with short stories with vampires, give it a go. I think it's cute. The next one, before I talk about it, I need to mention a book that I don't have a physical copy of, but I did listen to this year, and it did inspire this book a lot. I'm talking about I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the movie with Will Smith. If you know the movie, just put it out of your mind. If you want to read the book, they are extraordinarily different in a good way. Like, the movie is entertaining by itself with bad CGI and such, but the book is awesome. The book really shows that even in the worst circumstances, you can be a very bad person, even if you're the last person alive. I think it's very good, and the actual title makes sense with the story. With the movie, the title never made sense to me, but in the book it does make sense, and it's pretty cool. It was written in the 50s, and it's basically how the last man on Earth deals with the fact that he's the last man on Earth, the Earth being filled with vampires. It has also quite a tangent of dark humor that I do appreciate, because it's very hard to do that given an apocalyptic circumstance. But I do highly recommend it. If you get the chance to listen to the book, to read the book, it isn't that long, so you can do it in a few hours, and it's totally, totally worth it. Keep in mind, it might make you not like the movie anymore. I personally don't like the movie anymore. I never really liked it that much. Never made sense that those things are vampires. They don't look like vampires, but anyway, that's a story for a different day. Read I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, because that one, along with Dracula, inspired this lovely, amazing man called Stephen King to write Salem's Lot. It is a chunker, but to put it in the author's words, is basically, what if Dracula came to a small town in Maine? So, if that doesn't get you hooked, I don't know what does. This was one of the first books he published. I think this one is the third book he published. So it does have a lot of the usual Stephen King tropes, like the writer that comes back to town, bad love story. Stephen King isn't the best at that, to be honest. People being worse sometimes than the monster. And this, I think, it's one of his first instances where he tries to build like a small town, and the little things that happen there, the little relationships and how those impact the main story. I say read it. It's awesome. It's one of the best vampire stories I've ever read, and it is one of his best books. It does have 2 movie adaptations. They're okay, but read the book. And from what I understood, one of the characters I really like here, a priest, makes an appearance in another book series he has, The Dark Tower. I haven't read the Dark Tower series yet. I'm gonna one day, hopefully. But yeah, it interconnects as well, which I think is great. And it also has some short stories that complete a bit the lore of Salem's Lot, and Night Shift he has too, and I don't remember where there's a third one in another short story collection. So it's pretty cool. Like, this is one of the best vampire stories. Try it out. And it's also a very old Stephen King compared to his new books. I think he's gonna come out with another book next year, a short story collection. Man never stops. Oh, okay. This is our first bad vampire book. I don't think anyone read this ever, and I don't think you'll find it in English. This is V by Laura Nureldin. This is a Romanian author, and apparently I learned this before starting filming, that this is actually a sequel to another book, so I guess it is part of a series, but I put it on the standalones because I swear I couldn't tell. And normally I shouldn't be upset that I cannot tell that it's a sequel. I think that's a good job if you're able to do that as an author, to make the story stand on itself. But the story sucks. It's so boring, and I don't even know if it's worth mentioning what's happening in this book, because it's just boring. It was very cheap, that's why I bought it. It was very cheap when it came out. I should have known why it's so cheap, because I never freaking heard of this book. So yeah, it's just a very, very stupid story. It's basically a businessman in New York, or a business agent, gets made into a vampire in the first fucking page. Because the chick who's a vampire just thought it would be fun. And then shenanigans ensue because he's a vampire. But I don't know how it's possible to write such a boring story about a vampire, but this woman was able to do that. So what can you do? An interesting Romanian vampire story, though, if you do get the chance to read it, I highly recommend. It's from Mircea Eliade, and it's called Miss Christina. He is, or he used to be, he's not alive anymore, unfortunately. He's like a comparative mythology scholar. So he wrote a lot of books about that, religions and myths and folklore, yoga, stuff like that. But he also wrote a lot of fiction, especially in Romanian. I think you can find some of his books in English. If you do get a chance to read Miss Christina, read it. It's really cool. It's quite spooky. It's basically a painter that goes to some rich family in Dobroja, some place in Romania near the seaside. And there the family is basically haunted by the strigoi, or the vampire, or Romanian vampire of an aunt there who's called Christina. So it's short, but it's really cool and spooky, and I'm pretty sure you can find the 2 movies that were made on the book on YouTube. Search it, give it a go. Pretty cool and spooky. I really like the story. I really like the movies too. The next up is from the Game of Thrones author himself, George R.R. Martin. This is Fever Dream, and this is a very, very cool, bloody, dark story that takes place in New Orleans, which I approve wholeheartedly, about a steamboat captain that basically gets financed to build a very extravagant, very beautiful steamboat by a vampire, but he doesn't know that. And the things that happen on the steamboat, and the rumors that start spreading, and things of that nature. It's a very dark book, but it's very cool. I really liked it, and the whole background of a steamboat going down the Mississippi, and people just start dying or going missing. It's very, very cool. So give it a go. Especially since he's never gonna finish Game of Thrones, might as well have a book that has a start and finish story. Next up, this is another disappointing one, at least for me. If you like these, great. I'm very happy for you. This one is A People's History of the Vampire Uprising by Raymond A. Villarreal. I hope I'm saying that right. This is basically in the same vein as World War Z by Max Brooks, so it has like interviews and redacted documents taken from whatever places and official news reports and stuff like that about how vampires start basically infesting the world and people start turning into vampires. And it does a very stupid thing where they don't call them vampires, they call them glowmings. That's spelled Golamigs. And there's all sort of political or social movements that come out due to this. And again, I cannot put my finger on this, but it's just so boring. Like, I'm not sure how the author managed to write something this boring when it comes to vampires just starting to come out of the closet, some would say, but I don't know, wasn't for me. I saw it has good reviews on Goodreads, so if you think you're gonna like it, give it a go. Wasn't for me, maybe it's for you. I would be happy to hear that. Ooh, the next one, we're gonna actually read the back description together, because I have not read this. It's a short story collection called Vampires Never Get Old, and it's edited and made by Zoraida Cordova and Natalie C. Parker. Tales with a fresh bite. Look at this cover! My goodness! So pretty! And look at the back! Oh, let's read this. Okay. Sink your teeth into this. In this delicious new collection, you'll find 11 fresh vampire stories from young adults fiction leading voices. Enter the House of Black Sapphires by Doniel Clayton and discover the secret world of vampires and magic behind the doors of New Orleans. Of course. Meet The Boys from Blood River by Rebecca Roanhorse and their enticing power and terrible sacrifices. Okay, sounds a bit Lost Boys, but we'll see. And in V. Schwab's First Kill, witness the centuries-old struggle between vampire and slayer and the thrill of forbidden love. Oh my. Vampires lurking on social media. Ugh. Vampires hungry for more than just blood. Vampires coming out and going out for their first kill. This collection puts a new spin on the age-old classic. And from the list of authors, I only know of V. Schwab because I read some books of hers. My favorite is Vicious. I'm curious. I'm very curious. I'm a huge fan of short story collections. Huge. So I'm very curious, and given how much attentive details they just put in the cover, who knows? Who knows? Fingers crossed. I hope I like it. I'll let you guys know. Next one, another Romanian author. This is also goodish. This is The Blood Countess by Andrei Codrescu. Given that I said the title, Blood Countess, I think you can guess who's about in the book. I'm not sure if I said that correctly, but either way. It's basically about Erzsébet Báthory, or Elizabeth Báthory. And the book has two stories going parallel with each other, but at the same time they interact or intersect in a way. So it's about Erzsébet Báthory's present living descendant called Drake. And he's on trial because he killed someone, and his defense is, no, it was Erzsébet Báthory who killed her. So he tells the story of how he ended up in the situation that he is on trial for murder. And at the same time, you have the story of Elizabeth Báthory that's being told there. But keep in mind that it's being told with the idea in the back of the author's mind that every horrible thing possible that was said about her or her family turns out to be true. There are some scenes in the book that are absolutely disgusting. For a general audience, it would be very disgusting, so keep that in mind if you're willing to read it. I think it's an interesting read, but there's a scene with a horse I will never forget, but I also learned that it's a very true torture method or killing method that actually did happen, so yeah, keep that in mind. Okay, these are all the standalones. We're going into dangerous territory now. I have also in front of me my agenda where I had to write how many actual books are in each series, because I do not have the time nor the money to read all the goddamn books. We'll start here first with Chelsea Queen Yarbrough. She wrote the series about the Count of Saint Germain. I have here Hotel Transylvania and The Palace. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm actually curious if Adam Sandler had to get the rights for that cartoon, Hotel Transylvania, because there's a book with the title here. Anywho, and these books have how many? What is it? Have 27 in total. I have two here. 27 books, where each book has the Count of Saint Germain in them, and the century just differs and the location. That's it. And I'm pretty sure in each book he has a love interest. So yeah, it's just gothic, romantic, and there's a villain of the week there. So yeah, they're pretty straightforward, pretty fun, and you can choose from 27 of them. So yeah, I think they're okay, but 27, my goodness. The next one is just adorable. Just adorable. They're vampires. They're pirates, but they're vampires. I think they're so cute. And it's by Justin Samper. I think there are, how many are there? 6. They're just 6. And they're short and they're cute. If you have little fledglings or adolescent ones that you think they're gonna like it, or even you yourself, if you're gonna like it, buy them. They're adorable. I think they're very, very, very cute. Some people's kids read Percy Jackson books. Some read these. Next up. This one is a trilogy. I'll just say it. It's just a trilogy. I have the first book in Romanian, and it's The Strain by Chuck Hogan and Guillermo del Toro. I listened to them on audio actually, and the first book I found was narrated by Ron Perlman, which I thought was pretty cool. Don't know why the other 2 books weren't, but what can you do? This is basically about a 777 Boeing plane. Is it that many sevens? Yeah. 777 Boeing plane lands and apparently brings vampires with it, the vampire virus, and a CDC doctor has to save the world. It's a trilogy. This one is, again, the Strain. The second book is The Fall, and the third one is The Night Eternal. Yeah. It's really cool, very action packed. I think that's why they brought Chuck Hogan there, because the man knows how to write an action scene. I highly recommend them. They're very cool, and they do mix vampires with a specific religion. Yeah, religion, not mythology. And I think they did it pretty well. I think they did it very well. Given what they decided to include as the vampire origin story, I think it worked well. Didn't see it coming also. The ending, I thought that was okay as well. It also has an adaptation. I think it's a TV show. It has 4 seasons. I didn't like it. I think it changed a lot of things. And the second season is just drama with love issues and partners and shit like that. Who the hell has time for that in a vampire apocalypse? The people from that TV show. I don't know. I say watch it either way because it is entertaining, but I highly recommend the books. I think it's awesome, especially the first one. Very, very cool. Next one is the Anita Blake series. I have 2 of them. Actually, I have 3. I don't know where the third one is. I think I gave it to someone. It's the Anita Blake series by Laurel K. Hamilton. And this one has... Oh, this one is the one with the most. 30 books, and one came out this year. So yeah, this is Guilty Pleasures, this is Circuits of the Damned, and I'm missing The Laughing Corpse. I had that book as well. This is basically the urban fantasy of urban fantasy. It doesn't have just vampires in it, it has a lot of stuff. All the monsters you can possibly think of, they're in the book, but the main love interest, at least in these books, are a vampire, so I'm counting it. So yeah, again, pick whatever book from the series you want. I don't think it matters that much unless you actually care about the overarching long story that I'm sure is filled with romance and troubles in love. So yeah, give it a try. They're short, they're sweet, they're fun. They're okay, they're harmless. But 30 books, goddamn. I'm very curious if she wrote any other stories. Next one is Tanya Huff, Blood Price. This one is honestly funny. This one has 6 or 7. Why did I write 6 or 7? Oh yeah, because they have like an additional novel. Yeah. This one, so it's about a woman in Toronto, I find that very funny, who solves crimes, supernatural crimes, and she meets Henry Fitzroy. Henry Fitzroy, who is apparently a vampire and who apparently is the bastard son of King Henry VIII. That person actually existed, Henry Fitzroy. He died when he was 16, 17, something like that. But no, in this version, he's a vampire living in Toronto and he's gonna help a lady detective who he definitely doesn't have a crush for solve supernatural crimes. I really liked it. I liked the TV show. I thought it was okay. Give it a go. It's fine. Ooh, this one I have not read, but I did buy it because it was cheap, and this cover, it just screams goth teenage angst, and I just couldn't resist. This is Glass Houses, The Vampires from Morganville, and this takes place in Texas. Goddamn, I have never read a vampire story in Texas. And this is about some teenage girl, of course, moves into Morganville and discovers that things are not what they seem. Okay, how many are in this one? Because I'm sure I wrote it down. 16? 16! My goodness. I have no idea what this is about, but after I do, I'll let you know. The next ones I haven't read either. Let me just move them here so that we can make some space for the rest. This one, I'm pretty sure you know about the movie Cirque du Freak, and these are the Darren Shaw saga, part of them. This one is The Vampire's Assistant, it's in Romanian, and this is a trilogy of, I think, the last 3 books, and It's basically about a teenage boy who gets turned into a half vampire. I'm pretty sure you saw the movie. So I want to try to get all of them because I think it's a very cool and neat story that I wish I would have read when I was younger. But I don't think they existed by then. So give it a go. Let's see what other series I have here. Oh yeah. Let me just push this and give this. I'll bring this one first. This is the Suki Stackhouse series, or the Southern Vampire Mysteries series. I'm pretty sure you know the TV show these books are based on. The TV show that based its premise on the books. And that's True Blood. Yeah, these are the True Blood books, and they're not even all of them. I have 11 of them that were translated in Romanian, and I also have the short story collection that was translated into Romanian. And if you did see the show, you know what these books are about. They're about a waitress who can hear people's thoughts, and it's also during a time where vampires came out of the closet and people know they exist, and they have businesses and a life, and they're trying to fit into society. Some of them. If you liked the show, or especially if you hated the show, read these books. I have not laughed as much. Oh my goodness. Are you okay? He's okay. Don't worry about it. I have not laughed that much as I did while reading these books. These books are hilarious. They're also very, very sexy. So sexy. My goodness. And there are 13 in total. I did Google, I have to admit, I did Google how the series ends because I was curious with whom exactly she ends up with. I'm happy to say, with no one. We all like an independent woman. Okay, but yeah, read them. They're hilarious. Okay, we are in Anne Rice territory. Do you know the Vampire Chronicles? Because that's what we're doing next. And I have not in the order I want them, but what can you do? We have such. Interview with a Vampire. I have this, of course, in both Romanian and English, because I love this book. And this is the story of basically Louis, who is telling the story to a reporter about how he became a vampire and how he met Lestat. Lestat, who is the Brat Prince and who becomes the narrator of most of the books here. I'll let you know when he isn't. But yeah, these are basically the twilight of my generation. I adored these books, even though they're a bit messy and complicated in some areas. But yeah, I think this is the only one where Louis narrates. Oh, no, we have this one too. We'll get there. Next one is The Vampire Lestat, that was written about 10 years after the first one, and this is where Anne Rice makes Lestat the main character. Very cool, and I highly recommend them. And the third book, where are you? Here you are. The third book is Queen of the Damned, and I recommend at least read this trilogy, these first three, then you can stop, honestly. This one also has multiple perspectives, like I think the most we had since then, and it also talks about the origin of vampires. Yeah, and if you saw the movie Queen of the Damned, do me a favor, erase that from your mind and just read the goddamn book. Good God, that movie's horrible. One of the worst adaptations of any book. The next one is the most underappreciated book, in my opinion, from Anne Rice, and that is The Tale of the Body Thief. This one is very, very awesome. It's basically a creature. I don't remember exactly if we ever explained what he is, but this creature basically can swap bodies, even with a vampire. So he swaps bodies with Lestat. So the vampire becomes a human and the human becomes a vampire. And it's really cool. It's really cool. He also gets a dog called Mojo, who's adorable. And the story is really neat and very underrated. I don't hear a lot of Anne Rice fans talk about this book, which is too bad. The next one, I also have this one in Romanian and English because it's one of my favorite books from the series. It's the Memnoch the Devil, and it's basically about Lestat here, how he meets the devil, and the devil calls himself Memnoch, and he tells Lestat how the world began from his perspective. And I know fans are like hate or love the book, like there's no in between. I really like it. I think it's fine. Anne Rice goes to a lot of tangents here, especially with Christianity. I don't know, if you're okay with that, it's okay. I really like it. I think it's fine. The next one is The Vampire Armand, and he doesn't look like Antonio Banderas, I promise you. He's a 17-year-old redhead. This is basically the story of one of the vampire characters that you only saw like episodically, and this is his main book. And Rice does that, just gives them that. We have another one, and this one has nothing to do with the rest of the books. It's a separate vampire telling his separate story. And this is Victorio the Vampire. I'll also mention Prince Lestat in the Realm of Atlantis, which is the book that basically says that everything you learned in the third book, Queen of the Damned, meant nothing. Because the vampires are actually from Atlantis, and even worse, they're aliens, or descended from aliens, or something like that. I don't know. I didn't finish that book. I didn't finish it. It made me so angry, I didn't finish it. Next up, we have Blackwood Farm, and I'll also mention Merrick here, because Anne Rice wrote at some point a series of witches called the Mayfair Witches, and she decided that of all the universes that she created to interact, she would make the vampires from the Vampire Chronicles interact with the witches from the Mayfair Chronicles. So, yeah, these are two of them that I have. I'm not such a huge fan of this idea, but I'm not the author. I don't care. This one is another book that a vampire tells his story. This is the story from Marius. He's the Roman vampire. And the last one is when Anne Rice first decided to write again the Vampire Chronicles after quite a break, and this is Prince Lestat. And I'm not a huge fan of this one. But what can you do? I got it as a gift. I still read it. I think it's okay, but honestly, after Memnoch the Devil, you could just stop reading books. And it's fine. And the last series I have to mention here is the Twilight series. I have the first 4 books. The first one is in Romanian, the others is in English, because I want to reread them. I have not read them since I was in 8th grade. So it's going to be quite interesting for me, at least, as a 31-year-old, to read that. Because besides the first and second book, like the major things that happen, I don't remember anything, especially the last 2 books. You can put the gun on to my head. I don't remember what happens there. But anywho, that's going to be interesting, and I cannot wait. I hope I have fun. Next up, my favorite part of this whole video, we have the main, the one, the only Dracula. Look at this book. It's so pretty. And look at the cover. My goodness. And I love this book so much. If you think you know Dracula because you saw a movie adaptation, you don't. Trust me, you don't. Read the damn book. The book has a lot of things that the most adaptations don't have. They don't have the actual sense of tension that you have in the story. You don't have the relationships that are built here. Like, this book has one of the best group of characters I've ever seen. I love them. I really love them. The friendships that are here, my goodness. Oh, so good. So good. And read it for the vampire lore. Read it for everything. Like, it's great. It's really, really great. You should read Dracula. I cannot emphasize this enough. Read Dracula. That being said, some man who's a descendant of Bram Stoker, Dacre Stoker, decided he's gonna write a sequel to Dracula. This is called Dracula the Undead. I have the Romanian edition here. I yelled at this book. I freaking yelled at it. This is such a stupid freaking book. It's the kitchen sink of fan fiction. It has all the characters that were left alive from this book in here, destroys them, and not only that, they also bring in Erzsébet Báthory in the story, Jack the Ripper, the Titanic. What else did they bring? Did they bring Dracula back again? Yeah, they bring Dracula back again as well. I don't care if I'm spoiling it, by the way. I hate this book. And I'm sorry, you need another guy to write the book, and the book is written like it's a movie script. So I know what they were trying to do with this. Another Dracula sequel. I mean, they even have the balls to say a sequel to the original. It's Bloodline by Kate Carey. This one it's really innocent. It's about World War One, if I remember right, yeah. And it's Quincy Harker, the son of Mina Harker, with guess who. And he's a vampire in World War One. Things happen. They also end up in Transylvania. It's also written in epistolary form. This one isn't. Piece of shit. Nope, this one isn't. At least this one had the gall to try the style. Anywho, I think this is fun. I believe it has a second book as well called The Reckoning. It's an innocent, fun book. It's fine, but the audacity to say you're the sequel to Dracula, my goodness. Kids. Next up, this one just annoys me. This is The Secret Life of The Secret Life of Laszlo, Count Dracula, by Roderick Anscombe. Do you understand by the cover why it annoys me? So, of all the things you write big on the book, it's not the author, not the main character's name, but just the name that people will recognize. This is a novel about a descendant of the Dracula family that's basically an incel, and he becomes like a serial killer. It's written in a very psychological way because the guy who wrote it is a psychologist, and I'm not sure what he was trying to do. There's also here like a very, very sudden time jump, like decades, that just takes you out of it. And it's very boring. For a serial killer book, it's extraordinarily boring. And also, he's a very, very bad serial killer. Horrible. And such a boring one. I cannot believe that. Next up, from the same descendant of the Stoker family and a different co-author, who defunct, this is the prequel to the most celebrated and terrifying story of them all, Dracul. So this book, from what I understand, because I haven't read it yet, I'm a bit scared to do that, it's about Bram Stoker and how he became the author of Dracula. I heard this one is better, so I am curious. I do love the cover. I think at least effort was made here. And we'll see. I'm apprehensive, but after that shit, Dracula the Undead and Count Laszlo. Next one. Oh, I love this one. This one is Powers of Darkness, the lost version of Dracula. This one is quite the doozy of the story of how this one became here. I don't have time to tell all of it, but basically, this guy, Valdimar Asmundsson from Iceland, he started to translate Dracula in the 1900s. He published, or he finished it in 1901. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, if he forgot about it or something happened in his life. But anyhow, this other guy, Hans Cornel de Ros, found the manuscript in the 2000s, and as he was trying to read it, he figured out that it wasn't actually Dracula, it was a new version of the Dracula story. So him, with Dacre Stoker again, and other writers, put this thing together, And this book is part history of how this book came to be, the new version of Dracula, and the other part is the new Dracula story. It is similar. It still has the epistolary form with letters and such. The only difference, like there are some things that happen differently than the main story. Jonathan Harker's journal part is way longer here, and the rest of the part is like skimmed through. Some scenes are just not as important, I guess. But as if you do love Dracula and you're a huge fan of it, I think this is something that every collector needs to have. I adore this. It's one of my prized possessions, and I will reread it. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And lastly, a Dracula sequel, again, unofficial though. This one is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. I don't have the dust jacket, but you can believe me. Let's see. Okay, I can show it like that, see? It's still in Romanian, but it is quite the cute story. It's also done in epistolary format. It has a lot of journal entries and letters. I really liked it. It does combine the history of Dracula, the story, with the actual Dracula that lived, and it's pretty cool. I really like it. I highly recommend it. And that's about it. Thank you for being here. We went through all the goddamn books. Yay! And I haven't lost my mind yet. That's even a more yay. So thank you very much for coming. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you know any books with vampires that I haven't mentioned, please recommend them. I love vampire books. I will read them. I will try to read the bad ones as well. And we'll go from there. See you next time on another video, and I hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye bye.